Hi guys, happy Tuesday. Okay, we are going to go through day 11 because remember we are one day behind. So we're going to start with math and we'll get into reading and writing. So it looks like you guys have a math task first. So it says Millie bought 4 bags of apples at the grocery store. Each bag contains 6 apples. How many apples does Millie have in all? So remember this word each tells us to multiply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 bags and I'm going to put 6 apples in each bag. So I'm just going to use X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add them all up together because remember when we're doing 6 times 4 we want to know in all, right? So let's make this a little bit bigger and let's write our multiplication equation. So we have 4 bags of apples times 6 apples in each, and now we need to know how much. So what we're going to do is we're going to add them all up together. So I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So I know she has 24 apples. Ooh, 24 apples. Okay? And then for day 11 math, they want you to get more into decomposing. So remember, this is just breaking apart one number to make it easier to multiply because these are both pretty big numbers. So they're saying, how can we make this easier if we don't have our multiplication facts memorized? So what they're going to do is break up one number. So you can either break up the 6 or the 7. It looks like they chose to break up the 7 because the 6 stayed the same. So what they broke the 7 into are two numbers that add up to equal 7. So we know 5 and 2 will both add up to 7. So they're going to put the 6 in each bubble. And then remember, these are our twins, and they want some space. So we're going to put the 5 in one bubble and the 2 in another bubble. Then we're going to figure out what 6 times 5. They said is 30, and what 6 times 2 is 12. And then we're going to add those two numbers together, and we get 42. The other thing they did was they made arrays out of each bubble. So we're going to look at one bubble at a time. So we're going to look at 6 times 5. And they made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, and they went across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then they added these up and got 30. Then they looked at this bubble over here, and they went down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they made 2 columns. And when you add up all those squares, you get these same numbers here. So this array represents the 30, and this array represents the 12. Now, if you wanted to, you could just add these up all together, or just add these two numbers. Now they're saying you don't have to do just one way of decomposing. They're saying another way is to decompose the 7 into 3 and 4. So you don't have to do 5 and 2. You could even do 6 and 1. Remember, we talked about all those different ways of two numbers adding up to be 7. So we could do 5 and 2, 3 and 4, 6 and 1, different numbers like that. So they're just showing you another way. So again, here the 6 stayed the same, but instead of 5 and 2, they did 3 plus 4. So over here, our arrays are going to look different because they use different add-ins. So because they did 6 times 3, this array looks a little thinner because this one they used a 5 and this is a 3. So that's what that looks different. And this is 6 times 4, so this one's actually going to be bigger than this because they're just breaking it up separate ways. So you can do it any way you want. You get to pick your numbers because it's your multiplication equation. Remember, this is decomposing, but this is what we call the distributive property. So we can decompose one factor and then we use smaller facts. So this just makes it a little bit easier for us because sometimes these numbers are just a little big and we just want to work with smaller numbers. So we are going to practice that today. So we're going to do 3 together and then I'm going to leave this one to do on your own. So it says use the distributive property to find each product. So we're just going to look at number 1 right now. So what I did was I decided which number I wanted to break apart. You don't have to do the 6. You could actually do the 4 if you wanted, but I did the 6 because it's the bigger number. And the goal with using this property is to make our numbers smaller so it's a little bit easier for us. So as you can see, my 4 is going to stay the same. And then I need to think of two numbers that add up to equal 6. I know I could do 5 and 1. I could do 3 and 3. I could do 4 and 2. I think the easiest for me is going to be 3 plus 3. So I think I'm just going to use those. Then I'm going to come down here and I have to fill in my bubbles. So I know the 4 is going to stay the same. And remember, you are multiplying inside of those bubbles. And I'm going to take one of the 3s. Remember, our goal is to break these two numbers apart and put them with our 4. So I'm going to use this first 3 down here. Then I'm going to add it to my other bubble, which I know inside this parentheses my 4 still stays the same. I'm still multiplying. And now I used this 3 last time, so now I'm going to use this 3 to make sure I use each number. Okay? Move that over a little bit. So now I'm going to figure out what is 4 times 3. You can do an array to solve this. You could do groups. You could do whatever you need. I know 4 times 3 in my head. I'm just going to put 4 fingers up, and I'm going to count 3 on each finger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know this is 12. Ooh. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm looking at this one, and I know 4 times 3 looks exactly the same, so I know this is going to be the same number. And then I'm going to add 12 plus 12. You can line it up over here if you want, but I'm just going to put 12 in my head and add 12 more. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I got to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so I know my answer, 4 times 6 equals 24. So all this did was just break it up into smaller numbers because I know 4 times 3, and it just made it easier to add together in my head. So that's all they want to see, is that you know how to do that. It's not going to change your answer. You're not going to get a different answer than if you would just multiply across. Okay, then I'm going to come over to number 2, and now we have 6 times 6. So because these numbers are a little larger, I want to break one apart. Remember, we're only break up one at a time, so I have to leave this 6 alone. So I have 6 over here, and I did 3 plus 3 over here, and I'm just going to do the same thing because doubles are easiest for me. So what I want to do is 3 plus 3. Just because doubles tend to be easier because they're the same equation, and that's okay if you want to do it that way. So remember, our 6 is going to stay the same, so I'm always going to put the number that stays the same. We are multiplying, and I'm going to use one of my 3s. Remember, the goal is to split these 2 apart. 3, and then we're going to add these together because it says to. And then I'm going to, again, the 6 stays the same, times, now it's the other 3's turn to go into a bubble. So now I can do 6 times 3. You can do arrays, you could do groups. I'm going to put 6 fingers up and count 3 on each finger. So I have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I know 6 times 3 equals 18. The cool thing about using doubles is this is the same exact equation, so my answer here is going to be exactly what I have in my other box. So now I can do 18 plus 18. I can add that up over here. I'm just going to put 18 in my head and add 18. So here we go. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Okay, so again, if you knew 6 times 6 equals 36, I know you guys know how to do that, but they want you to show that you know how to use the distributive property or that you know how to decompose. But again, you will get the same answer. It's not going to change your answer. Okay, and the last one we're going to do is 12 times 4, which 12 times 4 is a really big number. This is probably our biggest number we're going to work with today. Well, actually, on this page. So I'm obviously going to break up the 12 because it is really big and I want to make this really easy for myself, so I left the 4 alone. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to think what plus what equals 12. I could do 10 plus 2. I could do 6 plus 6. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 10 plus 2 because I love working with 10s because 10s are really easy to multiply with. So then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to leave my 4 times, and I'm going to put my 10 in. Now I've already put the 10 in, so I can't use it again. So then I'm coming over to my next parentheses, and again my 4 stays the same. I am multiplying, and since over here I already used my 10, the next number is my 2. So I'm going to put my 2 in there. Okay guys, so now I have my parentheses. These look a little different than my other ones because these were all doubles. They look the same. And it's okay that these don't. Sometimes those are easier, so if you wanted to break it into 6 plus 6, you could have. But I love the 10s because they just are easier for me. So I'm going to do 4 times 10. I'm going to put 4 fingers up and count my 10s. So 10, 20, 30, 40. So I know that first equation equals 40. Then I'm going to come over here, 4 times 2. I'm going to put 4 fingers up and count by 2. 2, 4, 6. And I know that equals 8. So then all I have to do is 40 plus 8. If I put 40 in my head and I add 8, so I do 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. Okay, guys, so that one would equal 48. So then I'm going to come over here and I will start this one with you guys. So I know 8 times 9. I'm going to break up the 8 just because it's even and it's a little bit easier. So we need to think what plus what equals 8. Again, we could use doubles, so we could do 4 plus 4, which might actually be the easiest in this case, times 9. Okay, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to say, okay, what do I put in my parentheses? So remember, the 9 stays the same, times, and we're going to bring in one of those 4s. And then do you guys remember, do we add or multiply? Remember, outside of the parentheses, we're going to add them. And then here come the parentheses. Remember, my 9 stays the same, and I am multiplying inside the parentheses. And since I used this 4 in my first one, I'm going to use this 4 in my next one. Okay, so then all you have to do is figure out, what does 9 times 4 equal? Okay, so then you would solve that, and you would enter whatever it is. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to write the same answer over here, and then remember what we're doing is we're adding these two numbers. So then you just add what you get, and there's your answer. Okay, I'm going to let you guys finish that one on your own. If you have any questions, let me know. And the last part of your math is a fluency one, but we have 15 times 6, which is perfect because that goes with our decomposing. So because 15 is really big, I'm going to break up my 15 into smaller numbers because that's what decomposing is for. It's to make it a little bit easier for you and to break it up. So 6 is fine. That one's not too big, so I'm going to leave that one alone. But I am going to break up 15. So I need to think of two numbers that add up to be 15. The easiest ones I found were 10 plus 5 because we all know we love 10s because 10s are really easy to multiply by. So we're going to come in and we know 6 stays the same, so I always start with that, times, what's my first number? 10. Then I'm going to come over here, move stuff around. Oh. And I know my first number is 6 times, and I did 10, so now my next number, I'm going to plug in 5. So now down here, they want me to solve inside my parentheses now. So 6 times 10, I'm going to put 6 fingers up and count by 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Yes, I need to make bigger. Then I come over here and I have 6 times 5, so I'm going to put 6 fingers up and I'm going to count by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So now I can add 60 and 30. Remember, an easy way to add these numbers is to pretend like the zeros don't exist. So kind of block those out and then just add the 6 and the 3. So I know 6 in my head, not 7, 8, 9, and then I can just add my 0 into my answer, and I know 60 plus 30 equals 90. That's just one strategy. If you wanted to use a different way, that's fine. You guys could also use an array. Then they want you to do models. So what I did was I did 6 groups, and I put 15 in each. So I know this is 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. So I did get the same answer. If you counted one by one, you would get the same answer as well. So then coming down here, they want you to write a story. So it says, Miss Hazdovac bought 15 packs of pencils. There were 6 pencils in each pack. How many pencils did she have? And then checking your answer, remember we use the inverse operation. So I know multiplication, the inverse or the opposite would be division. So I start with the answer that I got, and I'm going to divide backwards. So divided by 6 should equal 15, which actually this group right here, this actually shows that. Because I have 6 groups, I started with 90, and I put 15 in each. Okay, guys, so that is it for your math this week. What they want you to move into for reading is you're going to read something, it's called Water Sky. This is actually a narrative, and it has a lot of different components with weather. So the question they want you to do with your reading is they want you to come up with sentences for the word perpetually. So if you can use context clues to figure that out, that's great. If you need to look it up on Google, that's fine. When I look up perpetually, or I think of ways that people use that in real life, perpetually means kind of like consistent. It's always happening, right? If you're perpetually hungry, you're always hungry. If you're perpetually late, that means you're usually always late, right? So if we think of some sentences that we can use, I'm trying to think of ones I can hear in real life. So I'm going to go with the boy was perpetually late for class. And I'm going to add a little more context, which made the teacher angry. So I know that perpetually probably isn't a good thing because it makes the teacher angry. And I know if he's perpetually late for class, he's probably always late for class, right? Another one we can think, let's think, the girl was perpetually hungry right after recess. Okay, so again, I'm going to underline. So again, perpetually just means consistent. It's usually happening. It never stops. It's forever. It's always, right? So think of some things in your life that you can use perpetually with. If you want to change that form, you could do perpetual as well. So don't let this word kind of scare you because it is a pretty big word, but I think you guys can come up with some really great sentences. So go ahead, you guys can share those as well. The next thing they want you to do for writing is write a letter to your teacher telling them about some things you have learned since being at home. So today we are going to use letters, which we did start in class before, but we didn't go into great detail. So I wanted to go over some components of a letter. So whenever you're saying, dear blah, 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 that's your greeting to someone. So we always want to write that. So you guys can say, dear Miss Hazdovac. I'm going to stretch that out so that doesn't get in the way. And then over here you date it. The reason people date letters is so that when you're looking back at letters, you can remember it, and it becomes a really important part of that. So we always want to date it up in the top right-hand corner, just like we do sometimes in class when we're writing. Okay, and then when we get into the writing, so today you're going to tell me about some things you have learned since being at home. So normally we would indent, but on letters you don't have to indent. You guys can you write it right to the edge. So you guys can say anything you want. You can start with a question. How are you? I wanted to tell you about some, and then normally I would keep writing, but again, I don't have to indent. When I come down, I'm just going to write over to the side. I have learned in class. And then you guys can keep on writing. And as you can see, you write all the way to the end. And then you come down and you start again. So it will go all the way down to the side. Don't worry about indenting on letters, okay? So this is usually right here, the message that you would like to say to the person you're writing to. So in our case, our topic is talking about different things you've learned that you're telling me about. But letters don't have, they can be formal or they can be informal. So you guys can ask questions, you guys can put what you're feeling, different things like that, because it is a letter to someone that's personal. When you're done writing, it doesn't have to go all the way down to the bottom. So whenever you're done writing, you come to the end. And the reason we have an ending is so we know who wrote the letter. So this is who it's going to. And down here, it's who wrote it. So I want to know who wrote me the letter. So I would say, yours truly, Miss, we'll say just Miss Hazdovac again. Miss Hazdovac. So you would sign your name so I know. So the date we know, so we know when we wrote it. If we keep it for a long time, we'll be able to date it. The greeting, we know who's writing it. And here is the message. What are you saying? And the ending is yours truly, who's writing it. This was who it's written to, and this is who wrote it. So that's the difference there. If you guys have any questions on that, let me know, but I can't wait to hear these letters. And then the last thing you have in writing is some simple and some compound and complex sentences. So let's look a little bit at that. So it says a simple sentence has one subject and one verb. So it's about one person and they're doing one thing. A compound sentence has two simple sentences joined by a comma and a linking word. So this is when we say comma and, comma or, comma but, or comma so. And a complex sentence consists of a simple sentence and a fragment joined together using a linking word, such as although, because, since, unless, before, or when. So a compound sentence is just two sentences, but those two sentences can stand on their own. As you can see, it says, Sam waited for the bus. It was late. If I use those sentences separately, they would make sense. But when I come down to complex, if you look at these, it says Sam waited for the bus although it was late. If you break those up, sometimes they can't stand alone because they don't have to be. In this case, they are sentences, but normally it can be just a fragment, which means a fragment is not a complete sentence. So we're going to link words or sentences together. Remember, we do this so that our writing can sound really well organized and less like broken up, right? Less like kindergarten writing. Remember, we talk about kindergarten writing such as like, I went to the bus was late. I did not go to school, the bus was late. We can say, I went to the bus stop, but the bus was late. Therefore, I couldn't go to school. So if you see the difference in those sentences, it just makes our writing a little bit stronger. So let's do some of these together. It says underline whether the sentence is simple, compound, or complex, then circle the linking word in each compound sentence. So I'm going to put a box over which one, and then I'll add a circle as we go. So it says, I love banana bread, so my aunt often makes it for me. So I'm going to come up here and it says, a compound sentence has comma and, or, but, or so, and I see so I know that's going to be a compound sentence. Then I want to come in and I want to circle, my word. So I want to circle that word, so. See if I can move it over. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to circle that word, so. Okay, so I had to circle the linking word, and I also had to underline which kind of sentence it was. So let's look over here. Several of my neighbors have pets. So I have one subject and one verb. I don't have any linking words, so this must be a simple sentence. I enjoy walking my next door neighbor's dog unless it is raining. So let's see if we see any ands or but or so. No, so let's look at the complex sentence words. Do I see although? No. Because? No. Since? No. Unless? Ding, ding, ding. So this must be a complex sentence. So again, I'm going to just make a copy of this. I'm just going to put it on this word, unless. Let's go to number 4. My neighbor across the street also has a dog, and I walk that one too. So it's not a simple sentence because this is a pretty long sentence. So let's start with compound sentence. Do I see and? Ding, ding, ding. So this must be a compound sentence. And again, I need to circle my linking word, which I know is and. I'm going to let you guys do number 5 on your own. I usually walk the dogs in the afternoon before I start my homework. So I kind of highlighted that part for you guys. So before, I want you guys to go find which sentence that is, and don't forget to circle that, okay? And that is it for the packet work for today. We will move on to 12 tomorrow. If you guys want to type your letter, there will be an assignment on Google Classroom. I believe it will be #052. And you guys can also type your sentences that you come up with. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. We do have a new virtual learning assignment, so we will start with Monday. I know it's Tuesday, but remember, we're a day behind. So for reading, they want you to have a scavenger hunt in your house and look for things that you can read, like a grocery list, different things like that. It can be anything that you can read. For independent reading, they want you to read your Scholastic. If you click on this link, it's an article called Learn at Home. And then writing, you have a new journal. So what you'll have to do is make a copy of this. So remember, you go to File, make a copy, and you want to do the entire presentation. and it will make a copy for you guys. So that way it'll be in your Google Drive. And then anytime you go to your Google Drive, you guys can search that, which is usually over here somewhere. Okay, so for your prompt today, it says, what was the most interesting artifact that you found on your scavenger hunt, and why was it the most interesting? So it can be anything you found, but tell us why you found it interesting. You could do a Google slideshow, you could do a Google drawing, or you could just type it if you want, whichever works for you guys. Okay, so back to virtual learning. Then you have a number line puzzle task, which is awesome. You could just click on this link. And the last thing is how our brain works. So there is a video linked to YouTube that you guys can watch, and it will tell you guys all about this, and you can follow along. These are really cool. They also have a new gratitude journal, which again, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go up to File, Make a Copy, Entire Presentation, and you guys can kind of choose how you want to save it. That way it will be in your drive, so you can just search in the drive whenever you want. So the prompt for today would be, you are very special. Draw or write 3 things that you are very good at. So you guys could do a Google slideshow, you could do a Google drawing, or you could just write in here 3 things you're really good at. And I think that is it for virtual learning for today, as well as your packet work. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope these are helping, and have a good day, guys. Bye.